Among the densely forested buildings, the man was right opposite, standing with his giant puppet. It was a 5-meter-tall giant puppet, and its left arm was a long pile driver. A slender spear protruded from the front end, across the 10-meter-wide street, and accurately pierced into my chest. On the wall behind. Severe pain and severe injuries robbed me of mobility. But I don't completely rely on my hands to manipulate the puppet. Kill him, sprite! I yelled, ignoring the steel spear between my heart and lungs. The other party did not dodge or dodge, and the puppet controlling him swung his left arm, trying to tear my body apart. Die, Ling Xingyi! Like a stone thrown into calm water, the scene of the dream is broken and rippled. The voice of the real world came from the ear, but it was so far away that it was unreal. Ling Xingyi! How dare you sleep in the exam, do you want to fail? The boy woke up suddenly. He raised his head in a daze, with sleepy eyes as if he was still awake. It took another 2 seconds before Ling Xingyi remembered that he was taking the exam. At this time Ling Xingyi found himself in a spacious and bright classroom, sitting in the last seat in the row by the window, looking up. The other 29 students in the classroom were busy writing. Only he fell asleep by himself. So now the invigilator and their instructor Sakura Sachiko is standing next to his seat. On weekdays, Mr. Sakura Sachiko, who is a gentle and intellectual big sister to outsiders, also showed a gentle and sweet smile at this time. I know Xingyi doesn't care about such a simple quiz, but it's not okay to openly sleep during the exam. Give the teacher face. Teacher Sachiko smiled sweeter and clapped her hands as if she had suddenly thought of a good idea. That's good. If you can't get a full score in the Starry Night quiz, all the quiz bonuses will be deducted. The amount of the bonus popped up in Ling Xingyi's mind instantly, and then his face suddenly became solemn. There was a sympathetic sigh all around. Ling Xingyi's heart also tightened, and he suddenly remembered the deficit on his credit card. To put it bluntly, Academy City is a large-scale experimental research base that gathers students with superpowers. In addition to studying here, the students also act as guinea pigs for research. Therefore, when going to school in Academy City, tuition fees are often not charged, and instead, students are given monthly subsidies. The higher the ability user's level, the higher the school's ranking, the more allowances the students can get. Ling Xingyi is currently studying in Chongdian Shangji Academy, one of the top 5 top schools in Academy City, so the students in it also have a lot of subsidies. For example, the subject they are currently testing General Studies, which is the so-called comprehensive encyclopedia. It's a bit like a guessing game on a TV show, all kinds of messy questions will appear, but the difficulty and professional requirements are higher. The Tuhur exam requires the completion of 300 all-encompassing questions, mostly fill-in-the-blank and choice-based. The purpose of this course is to expand students' knowledge, to broaden their thinking and horizons, and to better develop their own abilities. In fact, only a prestigious school like Shangji Academy has the leeway to set up such a nonsense test item. The corresponding bonus is used to motivate students' enthusiasm. After all, no one thinks they have too much money. Ling Xingyi is on the verge of fiscal deficit all year round, so he must not let go of any chance to earn extra money. Hearing the teacher's threat, he immediately showed a headache expression. Seemingly satisfied with her threat effect, Sachiko-sensei nodded and returned to the seat next to the podium. By the way, I remind everyone again, don't cheat. Teacher Xingzi clapped her hands and said, the final exam is a comprehensive assessment, and everyone is not prohibited from cheating with ability, but this ordinary test is to truly reflect your knowledge level, so cheating is not allowed. Although the teacher is not a superpower user, his eyes are also very sharp. Moreover, the latest AIM diffusion force field detection device made by the Scientific Research Department is installed in this room. Any activation of the ability will trigger a warning. If anyone has the confidence to hide them. Teacher Xingzi patted a machine on the podium, even the cheating teacher will admit it. But that's impossible. This mechanical device, even if placed in the entire Academy City, is the top research result. It will not interfere with the activation of superpowers, but it is extremely sensitive to fluctuations in the AIM diffusion field. At present, it is only borrowed from the laboratory of the Ministry of Science and Technology for actual combat tests, and has not been officially released to the public. And only the long-term Shangji Academy can be bold enough to use it to monitor cheating in exams. In other words, as long as you don't get caught, you can cheat, right? Ling Xingyi's brain gradually came to his senses, and he thought to himself, the teacher did say that just now. If that's the case, then there's no problem. It's not that Ling Xingyi doesn't know these questions, but dozing off in the middle wasted a lot of time. There is still half an hour before the end of the exam, but he still has 200 questions to do, and it is almost impossible for him to complete the rest of the time this test paper. So Ling Xingyi decisively chose to cheat. The target was naturally his classmate sitting in the front row, the well-known of learning in the school, Hitomi Shiranui. The monitor, Shiranui Hitomi, is a good student with excellent character and learning, and even a level 4 person with great ability. As we all know, Academy City divides ability users into 6 levels from level 0 powerless people to the highest level 5 superpowers. As the current number 1 Chongdayan Computer Academy, the highest ability user currently studying should naturally be a level 5 super ability user, and it is said that it is also the number 1 strongest super ability user in the entire Academy City. Further down there are about 50 level 4 powerful users. Compared with the level 5 superpowers who never showed up in the school, these powerful people are actually the top existence of the school. Class monitor Shiranui Hitomi is one of them. It's level 4 great ability, the name of the ability is memory construction. It is because of her that class 3 of the year is also a gathering place for ability users mainly based on memory and mind. Hitomi Shiranui is the real core of this class. In addition, she is also known as the person in Tokiwada who has the strongest memory and psychic ability under the Bee-Eater. Memory construction, as the name suggests, her ability can operate and write on her own and other people's memories. Most importantly, information can be accurately and efficiently written into the brain. So for Hitomi Shiranui, learning has never been a difficult task. Moreover, she can also perform the same operation for other students to tutor. Thanks to her, the academic performance of Class 3 a year is ranked first in the whole school. Therefore, today's cheating monitoring is mainly aimed at Hitomi Shiranui. Because as long as she is watched, the whole class will not have too serious cheating. On the contrary, if she is missed, it will almost certainly be the end of the class with full marks. Regarding this, Shiran Yatong was also aware of it, so at this time, he just took the exam honestly. In addition to the memory construction developed in Academy City, she is also a born with absolute memory, so even without relying on ability, it is easy to determine the perfect score. To sum up, Ling Xingyi is going to learn her answer directly. With a light flick of the fingers, a silk thread so thin that the naked eye can't detect it went around the chandelier. One end was quietly wrapped around Shiranui Hitomi's pen, and the other end was connected to the pen tip in Ling Xingyi's hand. The slender silk thread sensitively and faithfully fed back every stroke of the girl, leaving the same trace on Ling Xingyi's test paper. Ling Xingyi used a pencil, he glanced at it, and quickly found the corresponding question, and was about to switch to a pen to officially answer the question. Xingyi, don't cheat. A line of slender characters suddenly flowed out from the tip of the pen. Hehe, it was discovered. Ling Xingyi raised her head and looked forward. The girl still maintained an upright sitting posture and was writing vigorously. If it weren't for this line of writing, no one would be able to see the clues. The silk thread used by Ling Xingyi bears very little force, and it is difficult to detect it unless it is a relevant ability person who is extremely sensitive to power. But Shiranui Hitomi is different, because they have been together for a long time. This kind of trick has been used by the two of them to chat in class, so it is impossible to hide it from her. Ling Xingyi popped out another silk thread, and controlled Hitomi Shiranui's pen tip. I'll treat you to ice cream after school. Do you still want to buy me in such a cheap way? Ling Xingyi raised his head, looking like he was thinking. Then I saw Sachiko-sensei smiling sweetly at herself on the podium. I will invite you for a week, so that you can eat as much as you want. He made up his mind in an instant. Compared with the bonus, the little expense of the treat is worth it. Deal. The girl's slender handwriting almost revealed her excited emotions. Where did you do it before? I'll start over again. Hitomi Shiranui is a person with absolute memory, and the general education subject that completely tests her memory is not difficult at all for her. She does not need to think at all, and she has almost completed all the questions at this time. So even if you write it again from the beginning, you still have time to write the answers to the entire set of test papers again. After the exam, Hitomi Shiranui immediately turned around and faced Ling Xingyi. She is a girl with jet black hair and a delicate face, in other words, the standard black long straight attribute. In addition, the most striking thing is the pair of bright and extraordinarily clear and energetic eyes, giving people a shining feeling. The tall and straight chest also fills up the school uniform, revealing a maturity beyond her peers. Although in front of outsiders, she will always have an image of Yuja who is confident and even majestic, but in a class where everyone is familiar with classmates, Hitomi Shiranui relaxes a lot, which is more in line with the cheerful personality of a 16-year-old girl. Especially in front of Ling Xingyi, she acted coquettishly and complained without restraint at all. Xingyi, I can't feel my wrist anymore. I kept writing and writing till the end. Reading www.yuyugonshu.com. The girl stretched out her hand and shook it in front of Ling Xingyi's eyes. Her slender fingers were carved like white jade, and the marks formed by holding the pen for a long time were clearly visible between her white fingers. Thank you for your hard work. I will choose the store you want to go to later, and you will be satisfied. Ling Xingyi grabbed the little hand in front of her, and saw her thoughts at a glance. Hitomi Shiranui frowned in dissatisfaction. Hey, so I am a glutton in Xingyi's heart. No, I mean, thank you. Ling Xingyi quickly changed his words. Today is the day to move, right? Hitomi Shiranui also quickly changed the subject. I'll also help decorate the room, and then let's go have dinner together. The moving company has already moved all the luggage there. Ling Xingyi nodded, so there shouldn't be any trouble. Come if you want, just to get acquainted with the way. That's great, I also want to move out of the school dormitory. Hitomi Shiranui said enviously. Living alone is not such a wonderful thing. Many things are not as convenient as living in a dormitory. You also know that I chose to move out for various reasons. Ling Xingyi said, besides, Tong is a deluxe dormitory for one person, right? That's an enviable treatment. Hitomi, this is the only thing you can't learn from this boy. Sachiko-sensei walked over. I don't know how to rent an ordinary student apartment off campus as an outstanding student in the School of Mechanical Engineering. What do you think? The teacher is also a headache, and you are not allowed to use this as an excuse to be late for school in the future. Teacher, are the results out? Ling Xingyi asked directly when he saw the stack of test papers in Teacher Xing's hand. As soon as the voice fell, the classroom fell silent instantly, and everyone's eyes were focused on this corner. Although it was less than 20 minutes before the end of the exam, Sakura Sachiko had indeed finished reviewing all 30 exam papers. Students are already used to this. As an adult and a teacher, Sachiko Sakura is also a small group of people in Academy City who do not have superpowers at all. However, she is naturally not an ordinary role to be the teacher of this group of gifted students in Chongdian Shangji Academy. Although not as good as Hitomi Shiranui's absolute memory ability, Sachiko Sakura also has a super brain. 10 lines at a glance, almost scanning like reading speed, and a strong memory formed through special training, allowed her to process all the test papers in just 20 minutes. Hearing Ling Xingyi's question, Teacher Sachiko Sakura showed a displeased expression on her face. Sure enough, Hitomi Shiranui and Ling Xingyi were among the only 3 full marks in the class. Since the handwriting of the two was almost exactly the same, Teacher Xingzi did not suspect Ling Xingyi of cheating. After all, Ling Xingyi does have the qualifications for full marks, as long as he is willing. Ling Xingyi's cheating method does not rely on superpowers, so the instrument cannot detect it at all. Moreover, this is a secret method between him and Hitomi Shiranui, which is unknown to outsiders, and of course it is even more impossible to be discovered. According to everyone's performance, the bonus will arrive almost simultaneously. Although there is no 4th perfect score, the whole class has achieved high scores, and the bonus has not been deducted too much. So the whole class cheered and began to wait for the final holiday time. After that, school will be over in 2 hours, and tomorrow will be the first day of summer vacation. This pre-holiday exam is actually a benefit Mr. Sachiko seeks for the students to give the students an extra pocket money in a legal name so that they can enjoy the summer vacation better. It is also from this holiday that Ling Xingyi will move out of the special dormitory building in Chongdian Shangji Academy, and choose a relatively remote student apartment to live alone. The sprite turned into a ghostly black shadow, and the sharp blades that popped out from the wrists of both hands flashed past the enemy like the wind. The other party didn't seem to think that I could manipulate sprites to make such a sharp counterattack in this situation, right? Blood burst, both arms and left legs fell off the man's body. Amidst the screams, the spear stuck in my chest also lost its power, unable to tear my chest further. I was the one who won and survived in the end. Xingyi, are you tired lately? You fell asleep again before school just now. When Teacher Sachiko was talking, Teacher Sachiko is very dissatisfied with you now. On the way back from school, Hitomi Shiranui looked worriedly at the boy beside him. The two were walking side by side to Ling Xingyi's new home. Maybe it was because I slept late last night. Ling Xingyi responded. He was carrying a huge travel bag in his hand, the size could almost fit a person in it, and it was packed full, but Ling Xingyi didn't seem to be struggling at all, walking easily and freely. I'm going to live alone from now on, so I can't stay up all night. Hitomi Shiranui warned worriedly. Okay, okay. But the boy's reply was full of perfunctory tone, not trustworthy at all. Ling Xingyi didn't give the other party a chance to reprimand, so he quickly changed the subject. By the way, what does Hitomi think of dreams? Hitomi Shiranui nodded, with a really emotional expression. Did you really have a nightmare? Before and after the exam just now. There is a theory that dreams are foretelling the future. The scientific explanation is that the brain subconsciously integrates the information around it and makes predictions about the future. In my opinion, Starry Night's dream should be of this type, right? Oh? Really? Ling Xingyi said, are new enemies coming again? After all, it has been quiet for so long. Shiranui Hitomi did not show the slightest surprise. Be safe and well. Don't worry, you've already gotten used to this kind of thing. The two of us, Ling Xingyi didn't take it seriously, and stepped forward quickly. Here we are, right here. Is there such a desolate apartment building in the 7th school district? Standing downstairs of the dilapidated apartment on the 7th floor, Hitomi Shiranui couldn't help but marvel. Because the famous big ladies' school Tokiwada Middle School is located in the 7th school district, and Hitomi Shiranui's contact with the most is this kind of wealthy school, so she always thought it was a very high school district. That's because Hitomi has only been in contact with Tokiwada Middle School. Ling Xingyi was not frustrated by the dilapidated appearance of the apartment building. There are also many ordinary schools here. Many schools do not have their own dormitory buildings planned separately, so students can only live in these student apartments, and live separately. But the advantage is that they all share a single room, and the rent is cheap. It's not bad to say that. Shiranui Hitomi smiled and nodded, acting more excited than Ling Xingyi himself, and took his hand and walked forward, then hurry up and look at the room. It's on the 7th floor. The two squeezed into the slightly cramped elevator and pressed the button for the 7th floor. It seems that there is a roof above, but the corresponding button has been firmly covered by an iron plate. The two squeezed together face to face in the elevator, Shiranui Hitomi's plump chest pressed tightly against Ling Xingyi's chest, but the girl herself didn't seem to care. Instead she was worried that her clothes would be stained by the elevator wall, so she moved closer to Ling Xingyi. What a small elevator! How did the people from the moving company move the big piece of furniture up? The girl was concerned about other aspects. There is an emergency staircase next to it. Ling Xingyi explained, or choose air transportation. Drones, ladders, people with related abilities. There are many methods that can be used. As he said that, Ling Xingyi found that Hitomi Shiranui was looking straight at him with his head up. What's wrong? Xingyi grows so fast, before I know it, she's already a head taller than me. The girl stood on her tiptoes so that the eyes of the two were at the same level. When we first met, I was still a little taller than you. Ding! The elevator just reached the 7th floor. Hitomi Shiranui turned around and jumped out of the elevator. Ling Xingyi shook his head, and followed with his huge travel bag. The elevator was so crowded before, and there was also the reason for this travel bag that I always carry with me. After all, we've known each other for 3 years. You don't need to look for it deliberately, you can tell at a glance that there is a pile of packed boxes at the door, which is Ling Xingyi's future residence. He took the key out of his pocket. I'll open the door, I'll open the door. Hitomi Shiranui grabbed the key. Ling Xingyi did not refuse, and stood behind waiting for the girl to open the door. At this moment, the door of an apartment next door opened. Unfortunate! Accompanied by the sound of some kind of plastic being crushed, a boy wailed. My mobile phone, my savings card. A boy with a prickly hair almost ran out of the door in tears. Then they saw Ling Xingyi and the two who were about to go in at the door next door, and they looked at each other in blank dismay. The hedgehog head probably didn't expect that there was an outsider here, so he cried so exaggeratedly. Originally, there were no residents on the 7th floor of this apartment building, and the only one was his best friend and bad friend, so of course he didn't care too much on weekdays, but it was really embarrassing to perform Yanyi in front of strangers. Ahaha, Hedgehog scratched his head and laughed dryly, so you are the new neighbor who is going to move in. Hello, hello, my name is Kamija Toma, please take care of me in the future. Kamija Toma stretched out his right hand towards Hitomi Shiranui, and it seemed that he took the girl who opened the door with the key as a resident. I'm sorry, but I'm actually the one who wants to move in. Ling Xingyi took a step forward. Ling Xingyi, please take care of me. Kamija Toma's face froze for a moment, and he muttered softly, I'm just saying, how could such a cute and beautiful girl become my neighbor? Mr. Kamija has never encountered such a good thing. But it was just a rant, and Kamija Toma, who has a bold personality, naturally stretched out his right hand to Ling Xingyi, ready to shake hands. Although all the plots and characters in the world of the Index of Magical Forbidden Books have been forgotten, only the protagonist in it, the young man nicknamed Pickup Hand in front of him, Ling Xingyi, still has a certain impression. Is this right hand the fantasy killer who can break all superpowers and magical effects? Ling Xingyi looked down at Kamija Toma's outstretched right hand. It looked nothing special, but Ling Xingyi didn't intend to let fantasy killer touch it easily. After all, one's abilities are unfolding all the time. What's wrong? Kamija Toma looked at the other party suspiciously, and then checked whether his right hand was dirty or not cleaned. No, nothing. Ling Xingyi stretched out his left hand. What does this mean? Kamija Toma looked awkwardly at the crutched hands between the two, and froze. I'm sorry, because I'm right-handed. Ling Xingyi explained. If my common sense is correct, what you are holding out is your left hand. Ling Xingyi nodded, yes, that's why I'm used to shaking hands with my left hand. I think, in this city, there should be no taboo against shaking hands with your left hand, right? Hitomi Shiranui behind him added, Xingyi is a puppet master, so he pays great attention to protecting his right hand. Puppeteer? Performer. Kamiju Toma felt that he couldn't keep up with the rhythm, but after getting a reasonable explanation, he obediently changed his left hand to complete this simple handshake ceremony. It's the first time I feel so tired shaking hands. Ling Xingyi smiled and said, I'm sorry, someone played a prank in the circus before, and wore an iron ring to hold it up, but the bone broke. So there are such things. No wonder. Kamiju Toma immediately expressed his understanding. Shiran Yatong snickered at the side. Xingyi didn't say who was injured by the fractured bone. Because Ling Xingyi's two hands are equally flexible, there is no clear distinction of dominant hand, so it depends entirely on his personal mood. Hey, I just found out that the uniforms of the two, don't they look like the school? Kamiju Toma exclaimed, why do you live in such a remote place? Ling Xingyi showed a kind smile, there are various reasons. I will disturb you in the future. Please take care of me. After all, according to Chairman Alistair, he found the dormitory building with the strongest fighting power for himself. Do you need my help? Kamiju Toma asked enthusiastically. You reading www.yuyuganshu.com? No, thank you. Hitomi Shiranui said, I'm here to help. Get a girl to help move? Then, Kamiju Toma saw Ling Xingyi carrying the huge travel bag with one hand, and lightly holding 5 large cardboard boxes outside the door with the other hand. Sure enough, it's a borrowed ability. Is it the telekinetic type? In Academy City, this situation is by no means uncommon. Seeing that he didn't need to help himself, Kamiju Toma didn't stay any longer. He was going to reapply for his savings card and replace his mobile phone. By the way, to solve the dinner problem, last one was the original purpose of his original trip. The internal setting of the student apartment is good, with a small kitchen, bathroom, and balcony. The biggest difference from ordinary houses is that there is only one living room, which combines all the functions of living room, study, and bedroom. But as a single apartment for one person, it is quite an ideal environment. Since it was the first day I moved in, I just tidied up roughly to meet basic living needs. Further arrangements will have to wait until later to gradually improve. Although Shi's Huatong didn't mind finishing the whole arrangement in one go, Ling Xingyi didn't want to waste too much time. He also remembered that today was a treat upgrading ice cream to dinner. The dormitory building of Shangji Academy has an access control time, so you need to hurry up. It's 4:30 in the afternoon, which is actually still early. Different schools have different arrangements, and the vast majority of students only start to leave school one after another at this time. It's obviously too early for dinner now. Ling Xingyi's insistence on coming out so early was actually for his performance. Street Puppet Show. Ling Xingyi was born in a circus in this world, so out of the habit he developed in the circus, Ling Xingyi often goes to the commercial street to perform street performances. While improving his skills, he can also earn a considerable amount of living expenses. This kind of performance has been going on for 3 years, and Ling Xingyi is also well known in the commercial street. There were even many onlookers who didn't know the truth, seeing his superb puppet performance, really thought that Ling Xingyi's ability was puppet manipulation. It was even once passed down as one of the urban legends in Chengdu. Today's performance was just Ling Xingyi's personal itinerary, but Shiranui Hitomi was not dissatisfied at all, and followed him to the street, acting as the audience and the first child who threw money and rewards. The puppet used for the performance was placed in the huge travel bag that Ling Xingyi carried with him. It was a small puppet with a height of 30 to 50 centimeters. These puppets were made by Ling Xingyi by remodeling popular dolls and dolls. With only 2 hands, he can control 2 or 3 puppets to perform at the same time. Today's performance is Sherlock, a very popular comic work recently. Ling Xingyi transformed the dolls of Charlotte and Moriarty into puppets, showing the exciting fighting plot of the latest episode. Won the applause. The mass base of this comic is huge, and the animation has not advanced to the plot of the comic, so many loyal fans wait to watch the live animation of Ling Xingyi's puppet version every week. However, due to problems with scenes and expressiveness, Ling Xingyi could only excerpt some battle scenes and reproduce them with puppet plays, and ordinary dialogues and reasoning plots were powerless. Immediately afterwards, Ling Xingyi randomly asked an audience member to play his mobile phone ringtone, and then performed an impromptu dance performance with puppets to the beat. As more and more schools were dismissed, more and more students gathered to watch, and it was almost impossible to get around. Even if Ling Xingyi used the flower bed above the ground as a stage, there were still many people who couldn't see what was going on at all, and kept asking the people in front of them. Many people who missed the previous performances are still begging others for live recordings. The commercial street was almost blocked. Fortunately, Ling Xingyi's performance also brought a lot of popularity, so the nearby shops did not come out to protest. Ling Xingyi's performance lasted for an hour, and it was not ready to end until 6 p.m. In the end, a monkey puppet went down holding an empty cardboard box to collect rewards from the audience. Hitomi Shiranui, who was mixed in the crowd, dropped the prepared 5,000 yuan bill early. As if a certain switch was pressed, the surrounding audience dropped coins one after another. Although it is not as generous as Hitomi Shiranui, most of them are only 510 yuan coins, but the amount is still considerable. Excluding Hitomi Shiranui's 5,000 yuan, Ling Xingyi can actually earn 8,000 to 10,000 yuan for each performance, which is more than enough for living expenses. The puppet monkey followed the crowd to a junior high school girl, and another 5,000 yuan slip fell into the paper box. Thank you very much for your generosity. Ling Xingyi couldn't help but thank you for the rare large reward. Looking closely, it was a girl wearing the uniform of Tokiwada Middle School as expected of a school for young ladies. What a generous move. The girl has shoulder-length brown hair, and her brown pupils look strong and lively. She has a pretty face that doesn't need makeup. Can you act as a croak? The girl asked in a low voice, pointing to the green frog pendant on the school bag with her hand. The omnipotent puppeteer's fingers stiffened immediately, and the little monkey paused. For animals, ligers, tigers, cats, bears, wolves, eagles and pigeons are also fine, but frogs. Really? The girl suddenly showed a disappointed expression. But you can give it a try. Because he is the gold master with a large reward, Ling Xingyi didn't want to disappoint his audience, so he quickly added, "Let me collect information and materials." The girl's brown pupils lit up immediately. I'll be looking forward to it. Why does such a beautiful girl like frogs? Ling Xingyi couldn't help complaining in his heart. Miss Tokiwada has really strange hobbies. After a brief chat, Ling Xingyi continued to operate the little monkey and walked forward, constantly exchanging greetings with the audience, and listening to the performances they wanted to see, so that they could go back and prepare. To ensure a stable income for each performance, this is the intelligence that must be collected. The Tokiwada girl who was left behind showed a displeased expression. It seems that his proposal will not be taken seriously by him at all. Hey? Isn't this Misaka Mikata-san? It really is you, I thought I was mistaken just now. Suddenly someone beside me spoke up. So it's Shiranu-senpai. The girl bowed politely after seeing who came. Tokiwada Middle School and Changdian Shangji Academy are both top schools in Academy City, and they compete for the first and second places, so there are many exchanges and interactions between the students of the two schools. Most of the best students actually know each other. Misaka Mikato is a well-known level 5 psychic in Academy City. Although not everyone can recognize her, everyone has definitely heard of the name Railgun. Hitomi Shiranui, the memory builder, is also very famous in Tokiwada Middle School, because in the field of mind and memory, she is the biggest competitor of Tokiwada Middle School's other ace level 5 mind control Shokahau Misaki. Don't worry, I will supervise Xingyi to prepare for Guada's performance. Hitomi Shiranui said with a smile. Does senior know that puppet master? Misaka Mikoto immediately realized, he is also wearing the uniform of Shangji Academy. I have always heard that there is a puppet-controlled ability user in Shangji Academy. Although it is indeed a starry night, but there is still some misunderstanding. Shiranui Hitomi said helplessly. Perhaps it was because of the demonstration effect of the previous 25,000 yuan bills, or because the summer vacation had just begun, and the students had a lot of pocket money. Then Ling Xingyi received a lot of rewards of 1,000 or 2,000 yuan. What a great harvest! Suddenly, a group of people pushed through the crowd and squeezed in. All members wore fancy shirts, ripped jeans, and metal objects such as earrings, nose rings, and skull necklaces. The onlookers stepped back one after another to distance themselves from this group of people. The atmosphere at the scene instantly cooled down. Guys that existed as long as there were schools, groups that existed as long as there were cities, bad students, street hooligans. They stopped in front of the little monkey collecting money, and the leader, a strong man with yellow hair, looked down, reached out and grabbed the shoebox where the money was kept, and then kicked the little puppet monkey away. What the hell? It's blocking my way. The accomplices behind laughed arrogantly and presumptuously. The surrounding students stared wide-eyed, but dared not speak out. It is true that the guys who have been reduced to being gangsters in this academy city are basically level 0 incompetents, but the vast majority of students are also level 0 or level 1. If there is a conflict, that point of ability is actually fundamental. It doesn't work much. The yellow-haired man rummaged through the shoebox, grabbed all the banknotes worth more than 500 yuan, and then threw away the remaining coins along with the box. Hundreds of coins rolled all over the ground, making a crisp sound. A 50 yen coin rolled to Misaka Mikoto's feet and stopped when it hit her shoe. The girl bent down to pick up the coin. Reading www.yuyugonshu.com. There is a faint flash of lightning between the bangs on his forehead. Calm down, Misaka-san. Hitomi Shiranui quickly persuaded the girl who was about to lose her temper. However, you dare to money in front of me. Misaka Mikoto held the coin tightly. Leave this to Xingyi, he won't like us intervening in this matter. Misaka Mikoto said excitedly, the so-called treatment is to swallow your anger. She pointed to Ling Xingyi and asked, only to see that the puppet master let the gangsters walk away swaggeringly as if nothing had happened. Instead, he concentrated on controlling the little monkey to pick up the coins on the ground one by one. I'm sorry for letting everyone see such an unpleasant scene. As compensation, let's add a dance. As if he didn't know what anger was, the young puppeteer said cheerfully. He manipulated the little monkey to make flexible and exaggerated movements, like an impromptu funny dance. While dancing, he dexterously picked up coins scattered on the ground. The antics and superb skills quickly remobilized the atmosphere of the audience, and today's performance ended smoothly. Only one girl was always aggrieved. This guy is really bad. He has no spine at all. Is he a boy? Is he a clown? Misaka Mikoto kept complaining. Shiranui Hitomi looked normal, and instead explained for his companion, Xingyi is not like that, because you don't know him yet. Misaka Mikoto couldn't listen. If I encounter such a thing, I will definitely not let them have a good time. Shiranui Hitomi laughed helplessly, who will provoke you? The electromagnetic gun. Really? Misaka Mikoto raised the hair beside her ears, there are quite a lot of such guys recently. Ling Xingyi packed up the puppets and the simple stage, and the crowd gradually dispersed. Today's performance is finally complete. Then it's dinner time. Although more than half of the income has been robbed, the rest is still enough for 2 people to have a meal. Misaka Mikoto declined Hitomi Shiranui's invitation to have dinner together, and seemed quite dissatisfied with Ling Xingyi's weak attitude. He didn't say hello to Ling Xingyi again, and left directly. Ling Xingyi, who had been busy in the crowd, didn't even know that such a small episode happened behind him. The two were not affected by the previous unpleasant incident at all, and happily went to a Chinese restaurant to order a big meal. After the meal, I bought a large bucket of ice cream at the street shop. I played until 8:30, when most of the dormitory buildings had to close their doors, before I was ready to go back. Hitomi Shiranui lives in the dormitory of Shangji Academy. Even if the summer vacation is coming, the entrance guard at night is still at 9 o'clock, so he has to rush back. Ling Xingyi, who has already moved out, has no similar troubles. He sent the girl all the way downstairs in the dormitory before turning around and leaving. Starry night. Hitomi Shiranui called out behind him. The girl fiddled with the corner of her clothes, carefully considering her words, "Don't go too far." "Don't worry, I will be careful." Ling Xingyi waved his hand, "I will report the results to you tomorrow, good night." "Good night." Shiranui Hitomi could only smile helplessly. Ling Xingyi strode away carrying a huge travel bag, and quickly disappeared into the night. Although he was misunderstood by Misaka Mikoto before, as Hitomi Shiranui said, Ling Xingyi's ability is not controlled by a puppet, but a strong ability of level 3 phase fulcrum. In his line of sight, there will be an independent space of 1 cubic decimeter. This space or something called matter is a reality that only exists for Ling Xingyi himself. It can be divided arbitrarily and moved arbitrarily. The reason Ling Xingyi was able to become one of the pillars in the circus was because he was able to control 30 puppets to perform stunts at the same time. To be able to achieve the impossible miracle is to rely on the phase fulcrum. Ling Xingyi divides the cube into a large number of small squares, and then connects the other end of the silk thread to the divided small squares, becoming his invisible finger. At present, the limit operating distance of these small squares is 1 kilometer. But they won't disappear within a radius of 30 kilometers, it's just that they can no longer be precisely controlled. Just now, Ling Xingyi stuck a small square on the body of the yellow-haired man who robbed the money. So he can easily find the location of the gang. Next, it's time to withdraw money. The puppeteer is the performer, responsible to the audience. So you must not be rude in front of the audience, let alone scare the audience. That will ruin your future acting career. Therefore, when encountering things like today, Ling Xingyi always waits until after the show is over to solve them. Today is July 19th, and the summer vacation starts tomorrow. Therefore, the access control of each school is also much looser, and many shops have also begun to extend their evening business hours. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the public restaurant with extended business hours. Kamiya Toma rushed out, and quickly turned into a remote alley next to him. Behind him, more than a dozen vicious and delinquent teenagers filed out, chasing after him. Is that guy an idiot? The last one who walked out of the restaurant was a girl of middle school age. Wearing a grey pleated skirt, a short-sleeved top, and a thin summer sweater, she looked like a very ordinary girl. Not long ago, she was pestered by this group of unscrupulous teenagers just now, but at this moment, she didn't show the slightest expression of panic. Instead, she looked at the direction in which the gangsters were running away with a very impatient expression. A plastic bag on the side of the road was blown towards her face by the wind. At that moment, the bangs on the girl's forehead shone with blue and white lightning, and the plastic bag was blown out like an automatic defense system. Stretching out her hand to comb the short hair around her ears, Misaka Mikoto also ran forward. Kamiya Toma maintained his running speed, so that he would not be overtaken, nor would he be lost by the pursuers behind him, and walked through the alley nimbly. At the exit of the alley ahead, he saw a man leaning against the wall. "Hey, get out of the way, the man in front, no, get out of the way quickly, there are evil spirits chasing after you." Kamiya Toma yelled loudly. "I just happened to be looking for the so-called evil spirits in your mouth." Ling Xingyi greeted the visitor, "Meet you again, are you still out for a walk so late?" "Kamiya classmate. Ah, it's you. With the help of dim street lights, Kamija Toma also recognized Ling Xingyi, that new neighbor. Tisk, my name is Ling Xingyi, you must remember other people's names carefully. It's fine no matter what, let's run together. Kamija Toma ran past Ling Xingyi, not forgetting to greet him loudly. No. Ling Xingyi raised her toes, and placed the huge travel bag beside her feet in the middle of the alley. As I said, I'm looking for them. Seeing the unscrupulous groups catching up one after another, Ling Xingyi narrowed his eyes. 1. Don't even try to run away. The space in the alley is limited, and it is completely possible to achieve the level of one man guarding the gate and 10,000 men not opening it under the condition of intentional obstruction. Perhaps feeling that the visitor was not kind, the unscrupulous teenagers involuntarily slowed down and were stopped in the end. The leader, a brawny man with yellow hair, squeezed to the front. Which guy who doesn't have eyes? Hey, why don't you run away? At the same time, a girl's voice came from the back of the crowd. Ah, it's over, my painstaking efforts are completely meaningless. Kamija Toma fell to his knees on the ground weakly. What on earth did I run so far for? Idiots! One by one, they are so reckless. Looking at the two people who had no sense of tension in front of them, the yellow-haired man said angrily, if that's the case, then kill them all. As he spoke, he took out a stun gun from his trousers pocket, and it crackled with lightning. The gangsters behind them also took out daggers, short knives, and even homemade firearms from their bodies. He looked fiercely at Ling Xingyi and Kamija Toma who were standing in front of him. On the contrary, Misaka Mikoto at the back was temporarily ignored. If you don't want to suffer, just kneel down and apologize. The yellow-haired man kept pressing the switch of the stun gun, and the blue electric sparks crackled. While showing a complacent expression, he gestured towards Ling Xingyi. Idiot! What's the use of this young lady's anti-wolf equipment? Ling Xingyi took a step forward. The burly man with yellow hair felt a black shadow suddenly flashing by in front of his eyes, and then a sharp pain came from his wrist. The stun gun in his hand flew out, hit the wall next to him extremely swiftly, bounced to the ground, and shattered into several pieces. To be honest, it's not as threatening as a knife. Ling Xingyi slowly lowered his right leg. His right hand was almost broken by the kick, and the intense pain caused the yellow-haired man to lose his mind in an instant, and subconsciously rushed forward screaming wildly. Before Ling Xingyi's right foot hit the ground, he pulled it out again like a whip. Boom! This time, it was the yellow-haired brawny man himself who slammed into the wall heavily. The man who suffered the heavy blow was knocked out by one blow, rolled his eyes and passed out on the ground. After more than 10 seconds, he gradually regained consciousness. You guy, who are you, what do you want to do? You guys are rookies who just joined the armed incapacitated group recently, right? A group with a bit of brains and style won't rob street performers openly. Didn't the seniors teach you the rules? Ling Xingyi stood in front of him squatting down. Forget it, don't care, I'm just here to get my money back. While talking, Ling Xingyi reached out to touch his pocket. It's 36,500 yuan in total. Because such a large amount of rewards is relatively rare, I remember the amount very clearly. It's you. The yellow-haired man tried to open his eyes wide, that puppeteer performing on the street. Hey, so you will take revenge? I thought you would just swallow your anger like this. At some point, Misaka Mikoto had passed through the group of gangsters and came to the front. Because basically no one cared about this junior high school girl, but this seemed to make her even more upset. Of course, the rewards from the audience are the recognition of my performance, how could it be snatched away casually? Ling Xingyi found the wallet of the brawny man, but as a performer, you can't lose your composure in front of the audience, so this kind of troublesome matters are usually put off for a while and resolved privately. It's been more than an hour, I hope you haven't had time to spend the money. Ling Xingyi opened the wallet, otherwise I will be very troubled. In the end, it turned out to be 20,000 more than the amount he wanted to get back. Looks like it's the guy's own money. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Ling Xingyi thought for a while, threw back the empty wallet, and took all the money. Bastard! He had always robbed and blackmailed others by himself, but now he was robbed by someone. The burly yellow-haired man became furious instantly, and roared extremely sadly and angrily. Because the 20,000 yuan is the common property of their group. Get rid of him. The gangsters raised their weapons, ready to charge. Crackling, Misaka Mikoto's forehead flashed, ready to fight at any time. But Ling Xingyi was one step ahead of her. 10 rings with silk threads had been put on the hands that had been in the pockets all the time. The other end of the silk thread stretched into the huge travel bag. The extra money will be treated as your rewards for special performances. Ling Xingyi's 10 fingers danced, and the silk thread suddenly tightened. A black shadow swept out from the travel bag. Look carefully, this is a restricted program that is not performed publicly. Boom! The black shadow landed in front of Ling Xingyi. Impressively, it is a large silk puppet with a height of more than 2 meters. Monsters! Following Ling Xingyi's soft shout, the puppet swung its extremely hard fist, and rushed out like a tiger among a herd of sheep. It was so flexible that it was not like a puppet, and with fists and feet, it knocked down all the gangsters in just a dozen seconds. In the battlefield in the narrow alley, there was only a tall and slender figure standing Wei Ran. The sprite raised its head slightly, and the ferocious ghost face looked particularly terrifying under the dim light at night. Crackling! The lightning in front of Misaka Mikoto's forehead dissipated feebly, and she stared blankly at the scene in front of her. What is this? What is this? Misaka Mikoto's exclamation sounded in the alley. On the other side, Kamijo Toma jumped up from kneeling and howling, with an exclamation of "Oh, oh! What the is this? Kamen Rider? It's so cool!" Not frightened by the spooky ghost's face at all, Kamijo Toma excitedly rushed to Ling Xingyi's side, carefully looking at his hands. Battle robot? It's not really controlled by wires, is it? It's completely unscientific. But it's really cool. I said, so your ability is really a level 3 puppet control. Can I touch that big guy? Kamijo Toma was eager to try. Ling Xingyi glanced at his right hand. It's best not to, it's a precision device and it's easily damaged. Obviously used for fighting, how can it be so fragile? But, this idiot's right hand. Sure enough, you are relying on your ability to control the puppet. Although he was rejected, the good-tempered Kamijo Toma didn't feel dissatisfied with it, but watched the sprites come back with great interest. Seeing the puppets and monsters deftly avoiding the punks who fell on the ground, I couldn't help being amazed again. But, are they okay? Do you want to call an ambulance? Kamijo Toma asked, pointing at the gangster on the ground. Ling Xingyi didn't care. It doesn't matter, I controlled the power, I just knocked them out. But to deal with these guys, it's really too much to use sprites. Humph, at this level, I can defeat them all in less than a second. Ling Xingyi checked the surface of the monster's body, because they went too far, they even messed up my performance and scared my audience, so they must be taught a profound lesson. But in this way, my painstaking efforts are still in vain. Kamijo Toma said helplessly, I planned to save their lives, but they were defeated in the end. Hey, I said. Ling Xingyi took out his phone and checked the time. It's already so late, I wasted a lot of time today, go back early. That's right, Starry Night, you still have to tidy up the room. Kamijo Toma omitted his surname and called him by his first name. Longer, the dormitory of Shangji Academy also has access control time, your girlfriend should not be able to help you. Have you tidied up your room? Would you like me to help you? Female, girlfriend. Senior Shiranui. Ling Xingyi was stunned for a moment before he realized, you're talking about Tong, what should I say? It should be the feeling that you are more than a friend but not a lover. But it's still enviable. Kamiju Toma said, having a girlfriend in Kamiju is something I can't even imagine. Ling Xingyi looked at his right hand again and smiled. I said, you guys, how long are you going to ignore me? The girl's roar sounded beside the two of them, as well as the dazzling blue-white electric light. Oops, have you overdone it? Kamiju Toma exclaimed in panic, and at the same time raised his right hand like a conditioned reflex. The palpitatingly brilliant lightning disappeared around Kamiju Toma without warning. As expected, it's like this again. Misaka Mikoto gasped in displeasure. Because of the excessive current, the already dim street lights in the alley burst completely. But the surrounding environment did not dim down because of this. Misaka Mikoto raised her head slightly, and a more intense electric glow shone from the bangs on her forehead. Hey, don't mess around! Kamiju Toma hastily exclaimed, there are other people here. The light suddenly dimmed. Ah, starry night! Misaka Mikoto knew very well that it was almost impossible for an ordinary ability user to resist her electric shock because she shot Kamiju Toma. She had no restraint at all just now. Indeed, these street gangsters are unlucky enough. Ling Xingyi's voice was as steady as ever. The puppet sprite stood beside him, and there was still some residual electric light flowing on the metal parts of the body surface. And its owner stood there intact, not even a trace of burns on the corner of his clothes. Another ability user who is immune to his own electric shock? Misaka Mikoto raised her eyebrows and tentatively shot out a small electric glow. I saw that ray of lightning suddenly turned abruptly in front of Ling Xingyi, and then, like 5 fingers spread out, drew a few straight lines of light and rushed into the wall next to it. Metal wire. Misaka Mikoto immediately saw his trick. In the field of view of the electromagnetic field she saw, the boy named Ling Xingyi was surrounded by a Faraday cage made of interlaced metal wires. All electric shocks are guided into the ground or walls by these wires. Ling Xingyi frowned. This level of electric shock is no longer a joke, is it? Misaka, please restrain yourself. Ha! Misaka Mikoto laughed back angrily, you actually said the other way around me? Who beat them all down with strange puppets just now? The girl waved her finger to the ground where corpses are strewn across the field. Who is it again, ignoring me again and again, treating people like air? Kamiju Toma stood between the two of them to smooth things over. Well, since the matter is over, let's not quarrel anymore. Get out of this gloomy alley. Our duel hasn't even started yet, are you planning to run away? Misaka Mikoto burst into lightning. Kamiju Toma sighed, beep, beep, you are really persistent. We are both not afraid of your electric shock, so give up quickly. Because Ling Xingyi was also on his side, Kamiju Toma, who felt that he had a great advantage, was more confident than before, and couldn't help teasing the girl. But he didn't notice that Ling Xingyi moved his position quietly and hid behind him. The girl's aura suddenly dissipated, and her body relaxed. I said it all, remember my name well. My name is Misaka Mikoto, one of the strongest level 5 superpowers in the entire Academy City, and my nickname is the electromagnetic gun. Oh. The girl who suddenly became friendly gave people a more terrifying feeling. Kamiju Toma's instinct warned him, and his body became stiff. Misaka Mikoto took out a coin from her pocket, and smiled sweetly at the two boys opposite her. Hey, do you know why their nickname is Railgun? My ability can use this coin as a cannonball, use electromagnetic drive, and give it a muzzle velocity 3 times the speed of sound. This is the super electromagnetic gun. Misaka Mikoto raised her right hand and aimed at the opposite side. Lightning flashed all over his body, and his thumbs popped out. I just feel that the world is quiet, and it seems that thunder is exploding in my ears, and the vision is once again occupied by bright light. The bombardment was 3 times the speed of sound, and the distance was less than 5 meters. Kamiya Toma had no time to react when he saw this move for the first time. Fortunately, Misaka Mikoto also knew the severity, so she didn't aim directly at the human body, but let the cannonballs fly past his ears. Even so, the tearing airflow still blew on Judo's cheeks sorely. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. After his eyes got used to the light, Kamiya Toma saw the panicked expression of the girl opposite, as if some catastrophe had happened. Completely forgot. That idiot didn't block my blow, the starry night behind him is in danger. Before Kamiya Toma had time to think about what happened that surprised Misaka Mikoto, he heard a deafening roaring explosion behind him, and at the same time the ground shook, and the ground and the walls of the buildings on both sides were like fragile cardboard. Rip and shred. The powerful and scorching shock wave mixed with cement fragments swallowed Kamiya Toma from behind. Unfortunately, only had time to say the lines in his heart, Kamiya Toma was thrown down and flew forward. Behind him, Ling Xingyi and his puppets remained motionless. Only the ground under his feet remained intact, and the power of the violent collision drew an arc on both sides, separating the intact area from the damaged area. Although Ling Xingyi was still standing with his hands behind his back, looking calm, but only he knew that he was almost too scared to move for a moment just now. Fortunately, he reacted in a timely manner, using the phase fulcrum to build a barrier, and blocked himself in front of him. The cubes with the absolute defense effect at the physical level perfectly blocked this super electromagnetic gun. Of course, the result of a head-to-head encounter was a huge shock wave that bounced back and knocked Kamiya Toma down. It's getting too much. Ling Xingyi's tone was icy cold. The sprites disappeared from the side without knowing when. Then, behind Misaka Mikoto, a tall and slender figure slowly stood up. Misaka Mikoto, do you really want to kill someone? Misaka Mikoto, do you really want to kill someone? The ghostly figure of the puppet came behind the girl at some point, as if haunted by a ghostly aura, echoing the puppeteer's words snapped. Lightning exploded behind Misaka Mikoto, and the blue and white lights intertwined into a grid, instantly encircling the sprite's body, trying to drive it back. But the puppet bathed in the electric light remained unmoved, standing firmly in place like an iron tower. Only then did Misaka Mikoto realize the enemy behind her, let out a small exclamation, and took a step forward to distance herself. Sprites did not attack further. The turbulent airflow caused by the railgun gradually subsided at this time, and Misaka Mikoto, who had calmed down, also realized the impulsiveness just now. Because she was always irritated by Kamiya Toma's attitude, and because Ling Xingyi's presence was relatively low, she forgot that Kamiya Toma was not the only one present. Fortunately, Xingyi blocked the electromagnetic gun, otherwise I would have become a murderer. That's great. What a ghost. Why even he can block my nirvana? What are you, what ability? Misaka Mikoto shouted loudly, this kind of defensive power is basically a foul. It's amazing. It hurts. Kamiya Toma was the only injured person. He was hit by the shock wave from behind and rolled until Misaka Mikoto's feet stopped. Ah, safety pants again. Boom. Subconsciously kicked up. Unfortunate. Misaka Mikoto's cheeks blushed slightly, and she took 2 steps back cautiously to avoid Kamiya's gaze. Then he folded his hands together in reflection and bowed. I'm sorry. Especially seeing Ling Xingyi's serious face, the girl couldn't help but shorten her head, feeling like seeing a teacher or instructor. I didn't think so much. Because Misaka Mikoto is one of the strongest superpowers located in Academy City, or even in the whole world, her strength is too strong, and there are not many opportunities for her to fully exert it without any scruples on weekdays. Obviously possessing talent and strength, but being constrained by the surrounding environment, this kind of oppressive feeling hangs over Misaka Mikoto all the time. In addition, she is a girl with a lively and strong personality, so she will feel irritable after a long time. There is only one person. Kamiya Toma, who can completely ignore his own superpowers. Only when facing him can Misaka Mikoto finally be able to use her full power without any scruples. So, although Misaka Mikoto was very concerned about her inability to defeat Kamiya Toma, she still happily challenged him. Today, it was precisely because of Kamiya Toma that Misaka Mikoto subconsciously released all the power. Ling Xingyi shook his head, and looked at the girl with the eyes of an incompetent junior. Let's not mention this, the key is that you are too lax. Although your automatic electric shock defense is very timely, your own reaction is still too slow. Ling Xingyi reprimanded in a stern tone, I didn't intend to attack you just now, otherwise you have already been knocked down by the sprite. You rely too much on the railgun just now. The so-called special attack, if it can't kill the enemy with one blow, then it is meaningless, it's just a bad move with huge consumption and huge flaws. Hey! What are you proud of? The girl's face stiffened suddenly, and no one likes to be criticized for no reason by someone she barely knows. Just block my electromagnetic gun, don't look like you have already won. Attitude. Lightning flashed around Misaka Mikoto's body again, and fine iron sand began to gather near the ground. Ling Xingyi shook his head and sighed softly, sorry, I subconsciously thought I was in training just now. All I want to say is that if it is not necessary, it is better to use this super dangerous trick sparingly. Super dangerous? Misaka Mikoto tilted her head and thought about it, is this a compliment? At this time, Kamiya Toma, who had been lying on the ground, said, I'm sorry to disturb you too. I don't know if you heard anything? Is it Mr. Kamiya that my hearing has not recovered yet? I always feel like I hear the voice of an automatic robot. Sirens are approaching. Misaka Mikoto was speechless. Oops, run. Ling Xingyi also quickly operated the ghost to return to the travel bag, zipped it up and ran. Wait for me. The three of them ran along the alley to a commercial street. Because it has entered the summer vacation time, the commercial street at this time has become more lively, with people coming and going, bustling of course, mainly students from vocational colleges and college students. After joining the crowd, there was no need to worry about being caught by the guard robots again. The three of them calmed down their shortness of breath and breathed a sigh of relief. Even though there was a super-standard offensive and defensive battle not long ago, they were still afraid of the guard robots who had almost no combat effectiveness. This was also a characteristic of Academy City, especially the students of prestigious schools. I'm so tired. I'm so hungry. Kamiya Toma, who was physically exhausted, wailed. He originally went to the popular restaurant to go out for food, but before he could sit down, he was involved in the following series of events. The only thing to be thankful for is that he hasn't had time to order food yet, so there is no money loss, right? Hey? Where's my wallet? Where's the living expenses I just took out from the bank? The unfortunate boy fumbled frantically through all his pockets. Ah! It must have fallen while running just now. Hearing this, Misaka Mikoto also quietly touched her belly. Speaking of which, I only ate one crepe this afternoon. I was also planning to have dinner at a public restaurant, but was interrupted. The familiar sigh sounded again. Ling Xingyi drew out two 10,000 yuan bills. Today I have an extra 20,000 yuan in income. The rules of the world, everyone who sees it has a share. I will use it to treat you to dinner. Is this okay? Misaka Mikoto still hesitated. But Kamiya Toma has already rushed forward as if seeing a savior. Thank you so much. Generous Master Xingyi. In this case, I don't mind. Misaka Mikoto also said. Ling Xingyi nodded, then it's such a happy decision. Is there any recommended shop? Let me tell you first, the budget is only 20,000 yuan, and the cuisine is too high-end. He mainly said it to Misaka Mikoto, because she is a student of a noble girls' school, and her consumption concept may be a little different from ordinary people. Don't think of people as extravagant. I'm also used to going to ordinary restaurants. Saying that, Misaka Mikoto took the lead. The two boys behind hurriedly followed. With my luck, I won't find the wallet if I go back and look for it. So I'd better grab the dinner that is right in front of me first. Kamijo Toma said, "Thank you so much, Yu Kanshu www.yuyuganshu.com Starry Night." Ling Xingyi shook his head, "You're welcome. Strictly speaking, the 20,000 yuan is considered ill-gotten wealth, so it's better to spend it as soon as possible." "Hey, do you also believe in such things?" Misaka Mikoto, who was walking in front, turned her head and said, "According to your logic, shouldn't those gangsters who robbed money should have been punished long ago?" Ling Xingyi replied, "Have they received enough punishment tonight?" "It's true." Misaka Mikan slowed down and stood side by side with Ling Xingyi. "You are really a strange person. Even though you have such a strong ability, do you still believe in these things? Reincarnation of cause and effect. It's better to believe what you have than to believe what you don't have. It's not so much a superstition, it's better to say something like an outlook on life." "Really?" Misaka Mikoto didn't intend to continue to delve into this topic, and changed the subject naturally. "By the way, what is Xingyi's ability? It can't really be a puppet operation, right? You blocked my way just now. The railgun definitely doesn't use puppets. You call Hitomi Shiranui Sr., but you call me by my first name. Isn't that inappropriate? I'm also 2 grades higher than you. Because I have a good relationship with Senior Shiranui, and I respect her very much, but I'm not familiar with you at all." Ling Xingyi looked at her suspiciously. You said it the wrong way. Don't worry about these details, boys should be more generous. It's just a title, whatever is fine." Misaka Mikoto walked forward quickly. "That nosy idiot is also a high school student, I always call him an idiot, and he has no problem." "Well, no, I think Kamijo Toma must have an opinion." Ling Xingyi turned around and said, "Yes, Kamijo. That unfortunate boy with the hedgehog head is gone." "Ah! I'm so unlucky." Kamijo Toma couldn't even groan too far away in the vast crowd. "Before I knew it, I even lost my dinner. Could it be that I can only go to bed hungry today? Yet." And on the other side, suddenly it became a scene of 2 people. Misaka Mikoto looked at the boys beside her. "Yes, do you want to continue?" Ling Xingyi, who was thinking about whether to try to find Kamijo Toma, asked, "What?" Misaka Mikoto pointed to a restaurant not far ahead. "Do you still have dinner? Since it's so close, let's give up looking for Kamijo Toma." Ling Xingyi made a decisive decision. It just happened that he got lost, there is really no way. After taking a seat on the chair in the restaurant, Ling Xingyi said, "We just met today, so I don't even have a phone number." Misaka Mikoto said dissatisfied, "What do you mean it was him? Could it be that I was the one who got separated? Or, Xingyi has my number?" The girl looked over with questioning eyes. "No," Ling Xingyi shook his head, "but I think Hitomi should have your number, so it's no problem." "No, I haven't changed numbers with Shiranui-senpai." Misaka Mikoto took out a frog-shaped mobile phone. "To avoid this situation, let's exchange numbers." After exchanging phone numbers, Misaka Mikoto looked at her phone screen with satisfaction. Then, back to the topic just now. What exactly is Xingyi's ability? Ling Xingyi didn't answer directly, but stretched out one hand, and easily lifted the huge travel bag containing the sprite. The weight of this bag at the moment is about 90 kilograms. This is a weight that is absolutely impossible for normal people to lift with one hand. Then he let go of his hand suddenly, but the travel bag didn't land. Instead, it seemed to be lifted up by some force and stayed in midair. Silk thread. Misaka Mikoto guessed, recalling the scene where Ling Xingyi used metal wire to conduct electricity during the confrontation not long ago. One side reached out and approached the past. "That's right. Be careful, it's made of carbon nanotubes. Because it's very thin, it's hard to detect with the naked eye, and it's very sharp. This is just a high-tech material, not a superpower. Misaka Mikoto lightly touched the existence of the silk thread. Could it be that you are a material creation type? No, Ling Xingyi shook his head. My ability is the phase fulcrum of level 3, and the silk thread is just a prop. Because my ability can only be observed by myself, and it is only meaningful to me, so in order to apply it to reality, need the help of external objects. So you chose the puppet? Learn to operate the puppet to develop your own abilities. Ling Xingyi said, on the contrary, I am a puppet master first, and then I am a capable person. Because I am a puppet master, I choose to use puppets to show my abilities. Puppeteer. Misaka Mikoto was a little puzzled. Yes, the puppet master of the circus. Ling Xingyi smiled, don't look at me like this, in fact, I can be regarded as a well-known puppet master on the mainland. Before I left, I was once a pillar of the troupe. Xingyi still worked in the circus. Misaka Mikoto suddenly became interested, and the matter of ability was thrown aside, and she quickly asked Ling Xingyi about various things and experiences in the circus. Then, during the entire dinner, the topic revolved around Ling Xingyi's experience in the circus. Misaka Mikoto didn't realize this until after 8 o'clock in the evening, which was far beyond the dormitory access control time of ordinary middle schools. In fact, it was reminded by the persistent phone call from my roommate. Ling Xingyi had already had dinner with Hitomi Shiranui before, so he just ordered simple drinks and snacks to chat with Misaka Mikoto. Seeing that it was late, he called the waiter and ordered 2 more dinners or takeaways. One was brought back to his hapless new neighbor Toma Kamiju, the other was brought by Misaka Mikoto to her roommate Kuriko Shirai. Why treat her? Misaka Mikoto quickly declined. Xingyi doesn't know her at all, does she? Is that why you want to spend all 20,000 yuan? She calculated the bill and found that the total price of the 3 dinners was just over 20,000 yuan. In other words, even the snacks and drinks Ling Xingyi ate were paid with his own money. He really didn't use a penny of his ill-gotten gains on himself. You said it just now, Ling Xingyi explained, the main reason why you can ignore the dormitory access control and come back late is that you have a schoolgirl with a great ability in the space system as your roommate. Well, that guy Kuriko doesn't need to care about her. Misaka Mikoto waved her hand subtly. She also took a lot of risks to cover up for you, and she still wants to take you back. Ling Xingyi said, so let's bring some gifts back. Of course, the main thing is to spend all the 20,000 yuan. Moreover, Ling Xingyi thought about it, the space ability user named Heezy. I seem to know one, I don't know if it is that brat. You are really a strange person. Misaka Mikoto looked at him and did not refuse again. Ling Xingyi opened his palm, and the travel bag on the ground rose out of thin air and fell into his hand. Then, it's getting late. Ling Xingyi pulled out the chair for the girl. I just happened to move into the 7th school district, so I'll take you back by the way. No need, I won't be in danger. Misaka Mikoto said carelessly. It has nothing to do with strength, it's just etiquette and common sense. Taking care of juniors is what seniors should do, isn't it? Ling Xingyi said, Sister Misaka. You're still struggling with addressing. Misaka Mikoto showed an impatient expression. Wait, you're suddenly so enthusiastic. Treating guests to dinner and taking me home again. Misaka Mikoto suddenly opened a distance and panicked. You, Xingyi, you already have Senpai Shiranui. Ling Xingyi's expression was even more exaggerated. Are you all girls like this? Isn't your imagination too rich? It's just that it's rare to meet an audience with a heroic shot. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com. I would like to thank you for today's join us. Misaka Mikoto lowered her head, her face was visibly stained with a blush, giving the impression that steam was about to burst from the top of her head. I don't have that kind of imagination. The bangs on the forehead shot out the lightning gun again. Pedestrians passing by at the same time felt a strong interference with the mobile phone signal. The guard robots patrolling the streets also stopped at the same time. "Stop following me!" Misaka Mikoto quickly alternated legs and walked in front. Ling Xingyi followed leisurely with her travel bag. "I told you not to follow me anymore." The girl stopped abruptly, turned around and scolded. "However, I also live in District 7, and the road is the same." "You!" Lightning flashed on the girl's forehead again. Ling Xingyi quickly stopped and said, "Don't. Do you want the entire school district to be powered off tonight? Our dormitory is another power supply line, so don't worry." "Okay, don't be self-willed. It's better for girls to be gentle." Ling Xingyi said with a headache, "I was just joking, and I didn't mean to tease you. Forgive me and calm down." Joke. It turned out to be just a joke. The lightning instantly strengthened, and it really fell down. Fortunately, Ling Xingyi had already installed a steel wire lightning protection net, so he was unharmed. But this made Misaka Mikoto even more angry. In the end, with Misaka Mikoto's acquiescence, Ling Xingyi sent her all the way to the dormitory outside Tokiwada Middle School. Misaka Mikoto never paid any attention to him. Standing in the blind area of the surveillance camera outside the dormitory building wall, Misaka Mikoto summoned Shirai Kuriko on the phone. "Sister." A petite girl with ponytails and pajamas appeared directly behind Misaka Mikoto, and hugged the electric shocker with a bear hug. "Don't do that on the street. It's night anyway, no one will pass by." Then, Beijing Heza noticed Ling Xingyi's existence. She didn't feel shy because of her pajamas, but showed a broken smile. "Ahaha, is this gentleman the one who had dinner with my sister? Thank you so much for your care." Suddenly, the petite girl turned her head and muttered, "Damn it, I'm so envious. Unforgivable." Misaka Mikoto has long been accustomed to the behavior of her roommate, but because Ling Xingyi is beside her, she still feels extremely embarrassed and ashamed. "Restrain me a bit, pervert." Misaka Mikoto's characteristic roar was mixed with the crackling sound of electricity and the strange howl of pain from another girl. In fact, Shirai Kuriko had long been used to this level of electric shock, and although he was not completely immune, he would not be easily knocked down either. Chuan was playing with her beloved elder sister. "I can't see that the disciplinary committee member who has become more active and full of air has such an unknown side." Ling Xingyi actually recognized the identity of Shirai Heza from the very beginning, but in the mode of the discipline committee member who had dealt with before, there were completely two people. So it still made him a little unacceptable, and he didn't dare to confirm it immediately. The playful Shirai Heza also distractedly observed Ling Xingyi. All male friends who are close to her elder sister are her key investigation targets. After seeing the boy's face clearly with the help of the street lamp, Shirai Kuriko's face turned cold, and he disappeared from the entanglement with his elder sister in an instant, and then appeared in front of Misaka Mikoto. Facing Ling Xingyi, she boldly lifted off her nightgown, revealing her white and smooth thighs, and reached out to wipe the bottom of her legs, with 3 metal nails already sandwiched between her fingers. "Heza, what are you doing?" Misaka Mikoto hurriedly shouted behind her. "My lord, please back off." Beijing Heza fixed his eyes on Ling Xingyi. "This man is very dangerous, we must not let him approach easily." Ling Xingyi didn't waver in the slightest to the girl's overreaction, but nodded calmly. "Long time no see, disciplinary commissioner." "You bastard!" Shirai Heza gasped in displeasure. Misaka Mikoto was still in a daze. "Did you know each other before? Let's count it for now." Ling Xingyi replied ambiguously, "Since the person has been delivered safely, then I will go back first." "Is that why you asked me to bring back a midnight snack?" Misaka Mikoto raised the plastic bag in her hand. "What supper?" Shirai Heza asked confused. Ling Xingyi didn't look back, and walked straight away, and disappeared after turning a street corner. I'm so touched. Elder sister actually prepared a special supper for me. With Ling Xingyi's departure, Beijing Heezi also instantly returned to normal. Wait, let me explain what happened just now. Misaka Mikoto hid the plastic bag containing the lunch box behind her back. Ah, that man. He is a dangerous person. A man whose name is on the focus list of almost every branch Ling Xingyi. Hey, can't you see it? Misaka Mikoto sighed, but Xingyi is really powerful, he can even block my railgun without a hair. What? Shirai Heeza screamed, my lord sister actually called him Xingyi directly. Could it be that your relationship has developed to this extent? Heezi, I absolutely don't agree. Calm down. Misaka Mikoto threatened with a flash of light in her hand, tell me what's going on. That man is one of the key targets of all our disciplinary committees, and even a famous terrorist existence on the wanted list. Shirai Kuriko said seriously, however, because there seems to be interference from the high level of Academy City, we have to withdraw in order to get him wanted. He can't even take the initiative to deliberately investigate his affairs, so he can only be included in the list of key targets. Did Xingyi do anything bad? To make you so stubborn? Misaka Mikoto continued to ask. In her opinion, Ling Xingyi's only bad deed was a street gangster who beat up the incompetent. And this is what Misaka Mikoto it doesn't appear to be a problem at all. It is said that that man is recognized as the boss and leader of all groups of armed incompetents in Academy City. After leaving the street of the dormitory building of Tokiwada Middle School, Ling Xingyi raised his head and looked around. Carefully observe every inch of the surrounding space with unabashedly critical eyes. Of course, what I saw was just ordinary empty streets, nothing special. At this time, his mobile phone suddenly vibrated continuously, and the ringtones representing the mail came one after another, and they rang continuously for more than a minute. This means that hundreds of emails were sent at almost the same time. Ling Xingyi seemed to have known this would happen a long time ago, so he waited until the last ringtone stopped before turning on the phone. Hundreds of different numbers lined up in sequence. The content of the emails sent is also similar, the basic format is just a few words, location, and everything is normal. These locations are not major blocks, schools, or businesses, but deserted and undeveloped areas in Academy City. That is, the area outside the normal world. It seems that today is also a day of peace. Ling Xingyi quickly browsed through all the emails, and looked up again. It's been a month, and there are no new attacks. Have they given up? Or because they moved, they found the wrong place gone? The corners of Ling Xingyi's mouth rose, revealing a mocking chuckle. He knew very well that this city was definitely not as beautiful and safe as most people imagined. He is more aware of how much blood and danger is hidden in the night of this city. That's why Ling Xingyi insisted on sending Misaka Mikan back to the dormitory all the way. If it's just unrelated people who don't know, Ling Xingyi won't care about them. But if he notices it, then he will never give up easily. This is Ling Xingyi's character and way of dealing with the world. After all, even the most powerful human being in Academy City and even the world, the level 5 railgun Misaka Mikoto, in Ling Xingyi's eyes, is just a middle school girl who hasn't grown up yet. In terms of strength, Misaka Mikoto is very strong. But she doesn't know how to fight, and she doesn't know how to face a life-and-death fight in the true sense. Therefore, she needs special care and protection. At least tonight, with himself already involved, Ling Xingyi believed that he had an obligation to ensure the safety of the girl. Mr. Kamiju's day of transshipment has begun. July 20th, the first day of summer vacation. Because the air conditioner was fully turned on, and last night he had a full and satisfying meal, Kamiju Toma decided to ignore the sunlight that had already entered the room and continue to sleep. But instead he got a phone call. Idiot Kamiju, don't forget to come to tutoring. The class teacher's enthusiastic call came from the other end of the phone. Obviously it's the first day of summer vacation. Helpless, Kamijitoma could only reluctantly get up. Without this tutoring, it would be perfect. I would definitely think that my misfortune has been completely reversed. Last night, after unfortunately and Ling Xingyi separated, they couldn't get in touch because they didn't have each other's phone number. So Kamijitoma had to resign himself to looking back for his wallet. He didn't report any hope at first, but unexpectedly, he found it without any effort. Although it only reversed the loss, it was the first time for Kamijitoma that the loss was recovered, so he immediately and happily forgot all the dissatisfaction. In a good mood, he specially bought a late-night lunchbox on the way back to the dormitory, and planned to take it home for dinner. As a result, when he just got home and was about to start, Ling Xingyi, the new neighbor next door, knocked on the door and brought him the packed dinner. In addition to being grateful, Kamijitoma even began to think that he was going to change his luck. For a young man who has suffered all kinds of misfortunes for a long time, these good fortunes are undoubtedly salvation. Xingyi is such a good person. My lucky star. Kamijitoma took out the instant bento he bought yesterday from the refrigerator, and put it in the microwave to heat it up. The power supply in the apartment is also normal, thanks to the starry night, right? Otherwise, if it was just me and that Billy yesterday, I always feel that in the end she will discharge so much that it will paralyze the entire power supply network. When I go out later, I will stop by to say thank you. While waiting for the breakfast to be heated, Kamijitoma opened the floor-to-ceiling curtains to let the bright sunlight shine into the room. The weather is nice, why don't you just dry the quilt in the sun? The teenager who made the decision picked up his quilt and opened the sliding door leading to the balcony. At this time, Kamijitoma found that a quilt had been drying on the railing of his balcony. He looked down at the quilt he was holding in his arms, and then looked up to the front. This balcony on the 7th floor is about 2 meters away from the wall of the next building. To be honest, it is not a very long distance. Could it be that someone is playing a prank? Using your own quilt to me? Kamijitoma was a little confused. Immediately afterwards, he looked to both sides. If it was really a prank, the residents on both sides of the same building were the most likely. On the left is Ling Xingyi, the new resident who just moved in yesterday. He is a nice guy, and he doesn't look so boring. Kamijitoma noticed that the curtains of Ling Xingyi's house were still tightly closed, as if he hadn't gotten up yet. Then it's the one on the right. Etc. Kamijitoma suddenly took a step forward, and after a closer look, it turned out that what was drying there was not a quilt. Hanging there was a girl in white. Last night, Ling Xingyi slept very late. Because he wants to decorate the room. He couldn't sleep peacefully without completing some of the most basic arrangements. So unknowingly, it has been busy until the early hours of the morning. Fortunately, today is summer vacation, so I don't have to go to school anymore, so I can sleep in with peace of mind. But since just now, there has been commotion at Kamijitoma's house next door. Obviously I live alone, what the is that guy doing? Ling Xingyi decided to adjust the sound insulation of the room to a higher level after getting up later. In the groggy, the next door finally quieted down. But it was getting late, Ling Xingyi got up a little unhappily. Wash, eat breakfast, change clothes, pack your travel bag. After making all the preparations, Ling Xingyi opened the door. At this time, his cell phone rang. Hey, starry night. Are you up yet? Are you still used to the new room? Hitomi Shiranui's energetic voice came from the microphone. Good morning. Ling Xingyi said, I'm already getting ready to go out. It's summer vacation now, Hitomi Shiranui said, does Starry Night have any plans? I plan to go to Hwaju Art Institute to listen to lectures and watch their dance classes. Are you going to collect materials again? Hitomi Shiranui knew very well. Yes, if you don't update the program schedule diligently, you won't be able to keep the audience. Ling Xingyi asked again, then do you have any arrangements for Tong? Do you want to go and watch together? Although I'm very happy that Xingyi invited me, Shiranui Hitomi's tone visibly wavered, but I also have arrangements here. It's Mr. Sachiko's reading club. I originally planned to invite Xingyi to come together, but since you already there are arrangements. No, I won't go even if there are no other arrangements. Ling Xingyi flatly refused. That teacher is the only one who is full of malice towards me. If Sachiko-sensei hears this, she will be very sad. Ling Xingyi looked back at the wall clock. Okay, the summer vacation has just begun, let's play together when we have time. Opening the door, Ling Xingyi just took the first step. A blazing flame whizzed past his nose, hit the wall at the end of the corridor heavily, and exploded. Hello? What's wrong, Starry Night? I think I heard an explosion. Hitomi Shiranui's concerned voice came from the receiver. Ling Xingyi turned his head to look in the direction of the flames. At the entrance of the stairs of the safe passage, stood a tall and strange man dressed as a priest. The face is hidden in the shadows, only a little light can be seen with a cigarette in its mouth. On his slightly raised right hand, there are still some residual flames that have not dissipated. Nothing. Ling Xingyi said to the phone, nothing special, sorry, I may be busy next time, and I will send it to you later. Without waiting for the other party to reply, Ling Xingyi hung up the call directly and put the phone in his pocket. He took another step, turned around, and faced the attacker head-on. Has it finally come, my enemy? Finally you are willing to come out of your fortress. The tall priest stepped forward, the flames in his hands gathered and gradually condensed into shape. The scorching air enveloped the entire corridor. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Although I don't know how you knew in advance, that thing will fall here. The tall priest has bright fiery red hair, which fits the characteristics of playing with fire, but it took less than a day to move in, and the room was built. It seems that you also have some skills for a fortress with complete functions. Before we start, can you explain which organization do you belong to? The priest asked unhurriedly, as if it was a very ordinary chat. Ling Xingyi frowned secretly. This guy is not a capable person, but a magician. Ling Xingyi was able to smell the magic power. Although it is not clear what the other party said strangely, Ling Xingyi did not intend to talk to the other party. This is the enemy, just confirming that is enough. A magician appeared in this science-themed city, and the only target was Ling Xingyi himself. Ling Xingyi flicked his fingers, and the silk thread shot out. He rolled up a sharp carving knife from his workbench in the room, and shot at the magician in front of him. That is comparable to the speed of ordinary pistol bullets. The flames in front of the magician suddenly swelled, the air was heated, and there was a loud roar, which bounced Ling Xingyi's flying knife. But under Ling Xingyi's dexterous control, the knife adjusted its direction again and flew towards the enemy again. The target is directed at the enemy's throat. Ling Xingyi never showed mercy to his enemies. Boom! Suddenly the fire rose around the magician. Since you are so anxious to seek death, then I will help you. The blazing flames converged and condensed into two flaming long swords in the magician's hands. One is red, the other is blue, blood-sucking and killing the Red Cross. The temperature of the air soared again, and the short moment when the two flaming swords crossed to block Ling Xingyi's flying knife, the all-metal carving knife melted quickly. Boom! Ling Xingyi closed the door with a silk thread, and faint runes emerged on the door panel, resisting the invasion of high temperature. Oh, why don't you run back? There is nothing special about the ability to get angry like level 4. Ling Xingyi said, while putting down the travel bag in his hand. Don't compare me with those superpowers. The magician pressed on step by step. Ling Xingyi could almost feel the terrifying heat brought by the two flame swords. He squinted his eyes, as if worried about being burned by the flame's light. Raising his hands again, the 10 fingers were covered with rings connected with silk threads. Monsters! The travel bag at his feet has been opened, and most of the space inside is empty. The magician only saw a black shadow out of the corner of his eye, and then the puppets flew over from the air beyond the railing. The magician holding two swords had no time to react, and the powerful flame sword also failed to play its due role. The sprite kicked and shattered the hastily shaped flame barrier, and landed heavily on the magician, followed closely by the monster's close-fitting bunt like a storm. Clothes, and even the metal armor on the body surface were burned and melted by the terrifying high temperature of the flame sword. But the main body structure and motor function of sprites have not been affected in the slightest. Under Ling Xingyi's control, the sprites attacked wildly with tricks and routines comparable to human martial arts masters. The magician was caught off guard by the sudden melee combat, and until the sprite went on with a full set of combos, all he could do was defend with all his strength to protect his vitals. Sprites used the same posture as a human fighter to stand firm and prepare for the next wave of offensive. From the wrists of both hands, a pair of wrist knives popped out, and then, it was time to kill the enemy with one blow. The magician staggered back and forth, his body was so precarious that he could barely maintain a standing posture. It seemed to be a negligence in a hurry, and many cards the size of playing cards fell from his arms. Although I was a little hasty, the magician was not discouraged, nor did he intend to give up or surrender, and his tone was still calm, but it's okay to use it for emergency. He kicked away the cards on the ground, making them spread over a wider area. Hunting the Witch King. The magician opened his arms and opened his hands with rings on every finger. The flames gathered and condensed into a tall and mighty human figure in front of the magician. Ling Xingyi quickly manipulated the sprites to retreat. The temperature of the flames on that flame giant's body was as high as 3000 degrees Celsius, comparable to the temperature on the surface of the sun. The magician instantly seized the opportunity to counterattack. The entire corridor was shrouded in the aftermath of the flame explosion. Ling Xingyi took advantage of the force of the exaggerated explosion and jumped down from the 7th floor. With the help of the silk threads and monsters, Ling Xingyi retreated and landed safely. When I stretched out my hand, the travel bag also floated down. Afterwards, Ling Xingyi stuffed a small spray can back into his bag, and then went into the alley next to him without looking back. "You run so fast!" The flaming magician was speechless. He retracted the flaming giant and was about to jump down the stairs to chase after him. But just as he took a step forward, his body stiffened and stopped. A sharp pain came from the cheek as if it was a beat late. Blood trickled down from the wound on his face. The magician subconsciously wanted to raise his hand to touch his face, but the back of his hand was cut apart in an instant. His pupils constricted, he tried his best to reduce the focal length of his pupils, and finally saw those silk threads that were hidden in this space, so slender and almost imperceptible. The intertwined silk threads covered almost every corner around him. As long as he moved a little bit more, he would touch them, and then he would be cut by these silk threads that were comparable to blades. Damn it! When did that bastard? The magician couldn't help cursing, and it's still quite a tough thread, didn't even the flame just burn it out? The flame magician didn't dare to be careless, he knew very well how terrifying the lethality of these seemingly slender and inconspicuous silk threads is. Because his companion also used the steel wire to perform powerful slashing moves, he has seen the scene of using the steel wire to open mountains, break rocks, and even cut steel more than once. Therefore, the magician can only keep his body stiff and still, trying not to touch any silk threads. Bastard! Because the body movements are restricted, casting magic has become a little more troublesome, so I can only carefully mobilize the magic power to ignite the flames, trying to burn the silk thread around me. Next time we meet, I will definitely burn you into coke. Soon, footsteps came from behind. What's wrong with you, still? Why are you standing there without moving? A girl's unique clear voice sounded from behind. Were you fighting just now? Where's the enemy? Be careful, Shens, there are traps here. The girl behind was silent for a moment, then said, "Are you talking about these silk threads? It doesn't matter." Oh. Has it been lifted? As expected of Kanzaki, I can't even burn it with flames. No, these threads should have untied by themselves. Still frowned, tried to move his hand, and found that the silk thread, which was tough and sharp not long ago, had now become like a spider's silk, and it was not enough to break free with a little force. Still's complexion became even more gloomy. After listening to him talk about the short battle just now, Kanzaki Kori said, the opponent should have used a special silk thread that is only effective for a short time. After all, this is still an ordinary residential area. If the traps are always there, it is likely to accidentally injure others. When did those magicians become so considerate? Still sneered disdainfully. He touched the wound on his face, because the silk thread didn't cut deep enough, the wound had already stopped bleeding and closed by itself, so no extra treatment was needed. He is more than 2 meters tall. Although he is dressed as a priest, he has barcode-like tattoos under his eyelids, shiny silver rings on his 10 fingers, heart-shaped earrings on his ears, and a lit cigarette in his mouth. The flame magician, Still, is not so much a priest as a non-mainstream delinquent boy. He exhaled a long puff of smoke, and cast a last glance downstairs, the alley where Ling Xingyi disappeared before. Then he turned around and looked at the new girl. Kanzaki Kori is Still's companion and partner. She is a girl who is just 18 years old, but no matter from the psychological age revealed in her eyes and expressions, or her plump body with bumps and bumps, Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com is mature beyond her actual age. Although compared to Still in front of him, he was still a head shorter, but compared with the average height of Japanese people, he was still tall. The girl has black hair that is envied by most women. The long hair that hangs down to her waist is simply tied into a ponytail, and it sways left and right with the movement of the head and body. She hung a somewhat scary-looking Japanese sword on her belt. It was a kind of knife called Rei Deo, which was more than 2 meters long. In fact, it is a prop that is only used in sacrificial activities. Generally, no one would choose to use this slender knife to fight. Kanzaki Kori has an above-standard appearance, and she is definitely a beautiful woman full of oriental charm just by looking at her appearance. But, like Steel, her attire is a little subtle, adding a lot of uncertainty to this natural beauty. She was wearing old-fashioned jeans and a short-sleeved white t-shirt, which was fine at first, but for some reason, the jeans had no pant leg at all, and the bottom of her thigh was completely exposed, and the hem of the t-shirt was also exposed. The position of the belly button was tied well, which set off her already plump even more magnificently. The knee-high boots on the feet, and the belt with the long knife on the waist seemed to be a set of leather products. This kind of dress is also full of non-mainstream strange aesthetics. However, thanks to the blessing of Kanzaki Kori's own conditions, her impression is not as bad and disgusting as Steel. Really? Let him escape. Kanzaki Kori looked at the closed door of Ling Xingyi's house, but, are you really sure that he is the enemy? Haven't we already confirmed that Academy City is not at this stage? Magicians from other factions are on the move, right?